I have traveled the globe to seek out the finest and truest podcast of them all. A podcast of great glory. A podcast that could inspire a generation. A podcast that dreams are made of. Until I find that podcast, this one will have to do. Randy and Keith, The Cruise Ship Diaries.
It's Eddie and Pete.
And I'm ready to talk.
Ultimately, it's just about being entertaining, right?
Well, in that case, why are you doing it?
So what would you like to talk about?
Yo, welcome aboard. It's the Cruise Ship Diaries. Eddy and Pete. Yeah, we're spitting fire like a wire. Yeah, I'm Eddy, the Welsh kid with the Navy style, rocking these wild curls. Yeah, you know it's been a while on the mic, spitting truth, showing life as a quest. With my homie Pete, yeah, he's way above the rest. And I'm Pete, baby, handsome with the clean shave. Jokes on point, keep the vibe like a rave. Brilliantly witty, got the talent and the flow. Crafting the beats to make you feel the glow. On this podcast ride, we're cruising the seas, bringing you the laughter, you're feeling the breeze. Check it on YouTube, we're living our dreams. Eddy and Pete got the best team, it seems. Yeah, each episode a treasure, drop a gem like it's gold. Sharing our stories, listen close, let it unfold. Waves crashing like the words, every rhyme we deliver. With Pete at the helm, real talk make you shiver like when I hit the keys. Creating that perfect sound, mixing laughter and wisdom until we all feel bound. Got a shot of talent, yeah, pouring it thick. Sailing through these waters, we're destined to stick. So we're cruising the ocean, feeling young and alive. With Pete cracking jokes, we're always gonna thrive. Every week a new story, you don't wanna miss. Tune in, join the party, come ride the on this podcast ride. We're cruising the seas, bringing you the laughter, you're feeling the breeze. Check it on YouTube, we're living our dreams. Eddy and Pete got the best team, it seems. Oh, 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 oh. Yeah, it's all about the journey, not just the destination. With the handsome face, I'm the source of inspiration, taking you along through the lows and the highs. With Eddy by my side, we'll break through the sky. So raise your glass, toast to the fun that we share, bringing you the vibe. No stress, just there. From Wales to the world, we're making our mark. With the Cruise Ship Diaries, we're igniting a spark. So hit that subscribe, don't let it fade away. Eddy and Pete, we're here come one May. In this podcast life, ride the wave and delight. Cruise Ship Diaries, yeah, we shine so bright. Podcast ride, we're cruising the seas, bringing you the laughter, you're feeling the breeze. Check it on YouTube, we're living our dreams. Eddy and Pete got the best team, it seems. I wanna ooh, 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 I wanna ooh, 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 I wanna ooh, 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 I wanna ooh.
So what do you think of when you think of Four Seasons, as in the brand Four Seasons, not the music by Vivaldi?
Okay, I would probably go a posh upmarket hotel. Sound right?
Yes, you're thinking high end, right?
Yeah, high end. Yeah, absolutely.
You're
Somewhere
thinking a
that I would
luxury
stay.
brand. You're
Right.
thinking sophisticated. You're thinking all the things really that we're not.
I was just thinking that I could well be linked to the marketing campaign, I would have thought.
Well,
In
not
fact,
sure
I'm
about that.
surprised they haven't
But-
been in contact.
So if you know anything about the cruising world, you know that Four Seasons are now getting into the seafaring market, right? With their new luxury yacht that's just launched.
Looks very nice. Yeah, absolutely.
Not so many people on board, I think only sailing with about 200
Two.
people. Obviously, they're looking for the luxury focus. They're looking for the luxury market. I'm sure, can you imagine the service on board? If you've got 200 people on board and you've got like an incredible ratio of crew to guests, that's going to be a high-end experience, right?
It's going to be great. Yeah, I've seen some of their promos they've been putting out on social media. Looks very nice. I know some of the people. I recognize some of the people who obviously they've brought them together from the very cream of other lines, etc., working in all sorts of different departments, I guess, all around the ship. Looks very exciting.
Yeah, some of the people So last year I was at the big cruise ship convention. This is 2025. I was there at the big cruise ship convention.
You're
And
everywhere,
of course, a
aren't
lot
you?
of the people were there, and a lot of people were there, and quite a lot of people, people that we would know, were actually there and have joined Four Seasons to sort of help launch this new foray into the seafaring business for Four Seasons. So Vladdy was there. And I had a good chat to him. He was very excited about it. Like, they're going, obviously, for that market, you're talking luxury cruising, and it's sort of like the very high end of luxury cruising, almost to the point where you could just go out and charter a yacht. Do you know what I mean? But you maybe you want to go on and have a sort of seafaring. You don't want to be with as many people, but you don't want to have the hassle of owning a yacht yourself. And you want that luxury experience. You want the incredible itineraries, and you want the amazing food and the amazing chefs, and you want that incredible, beautiful service. But you don't want to have the hassle of owning a vessel yourself, I guess, at that point, right?
I'm presuming, I don't know what you heard or seen the layout of it, but I'm presuming they don't have a theatre and they don't have a cruise director.
They have a lounge and entertainment experience, and they are having entertainment on there. They are having guest entertainers and that sort of thing on there. And I don't know if that's going to be their focus. I assume that sort of the destinations, the overall feel and vibe on board is going to be what people are going to be thinking about. And, just being able to have the 4 seasons that you get, I guess, on land, but being able to sail around the world and enjoy it as well. But you're going to get exceptional service like that you have, I guess, the standards that they have on land, personalized attention, I'm assuming that all the crew members will learn pretty much everyone's name, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, well, I know of the captain, and you probably know the captain, I expect, and she is very much an entertainer in her own right as well.
Yes. So Captain Kate, who I've worked with, Captain Kate was at the big cruise conference last year. I saw her, and she was very excited about this new innovation in cruising. We're talking luxurious residential style suites, private terraces, like lots of space, innovative designs. She was talking about, or was it her? Somebody else might have been talking about this incredible suite that they had on board. And of course, when did I work with Captain Kate? Just prior to the Pando, I think, just prior to the pandemic, I worked with Captain Kate. And of course, she had Bug, the cat, on board that would roam around both her quarters and the bridge area as well. And of course, whenever Captain Kate would go anywhere, she was just like a superstar, like an absolute superstar.
Yeah.
Like she would be like, people would cruise just so they could hang out with Captain Kate. Like, it was unbelievable in that regard.
I've always thought, I haven't worked with Captain Kate, but I would have thought as a cruise director, it'd be very hard to do anything other than link yourself with the captain. In the sense that she's gonna do great. Everybody wants to speak to Captain Kate, so you're either going to be competing with the captain, which you're not going to win at, or link yourself up with her.
Well, obviously Captain Kate did really well on social. I remember, I think, before the Pando, I remember when Captain Kate was approaching about 100,000 followers on Instagram, and we just couldn't believe that she was going to get up to 100,000 followers on Instagram, which was incredible. And then, of course, during the Pando, she sort of exploded in that way, and then went to over, I think, what she had now, 1.2 million followers on Instagram. And she was always coming up with new ideas and new things to put on Instagram and sharing what it was like. And I think it's sort of for the crew, it gave a little bit more carte blanche for crew members to share a little bit more behind the scenes, because there's things that we wouldn't have possibly shared before, but we're like, well, if Captain Kate's sharing this behind the scenes thing, then maybe we can do something like that as well. Because she was always doing things like crew birthdays, when it's this particular crew member's birthday and we did this to surprise them, or the jokes and japes and things that they used to do, which possibly we might not have shared. And Captain Kate sort of opened the door for a lot more of that behind the scenes sort of thing.
Yeah, I think she's very good for the crew. I'm surprised more lines when promoting people up to captains, to staff captains, etc., up to captains. So they're not considering how good you are or even helping. It really does make a difference when you are really entertaining and you're out there and you're doing that bit with the guests that absolutely love you, kind of thing. And there are 50-50, right? Some of the captains are absolutely wonderful at that, and some of them struggle a little bit with it.
Yes, I think it depends on your personality. I can imagine some of the captains who've been around for sort of 3 decades, and 3 decades ago, it was, having to sort of put on a show was a different thing right back then. Hang on a minute, like I have everyone's safety as my priority.
I'm
I
responsible
have
for everything.
Yeah, which is just insane. I've used to talk to captains all the time about the weight of like literally going to bed knowing that you are responsible for all souls on board, which is just incredible. And now there's this added element of not necessarily social media, but certainly on the ship that to contribute, like the captain that has his own rock show, for example. Like it's incredible the extra bits that they sort of had to do. And of course, for Captain Kate, it was the added thing of also everybody wants to meet the cat. So she used to do a big talk in the theater. She used to bring the cat along. I think there was a trivia as well that we used to do with the cat as well. And Captain Kate was always the captain was always very sociable, and like I think on every sea day she used to go out and hang out at the coffee place. So if you did want to get a selfie with her or the cat, she would always make herself available in that regard. And the thing about being a captain, it's a bit different to being a cruise director, but in the fact that people don't quite realize it's so much work behind the scenes, the boring stuff, the emails, the keeping in touch with the office, the rules, the regulations, the forward planning that you have to do, the meetings upon meetings and emails upon emails. And yet Captain Kate did used to make herself available whenever possible, even though it's difficult to spend. I mean, imagine if you spent 1 minute with 3,000 guests. I mean, you'd never get anything else done, right?
Absolutely. And I remember you actually used to do a thing as a cruise director where you'd put it on the ship's TV where you would do coffee with the captain. Was that right? And it was a piece where you could ask a question each day. And it would be played out over the next week or two, different questions, and you'd get a little bit closer to the captain and what their thoughts were and what their background, and they got a chance to tell their stories in their own space, really.
Yeah, it was really interesting with each captain and how they got to it, because some their sort of father was a captain or their grandfather was a captain, and some of them, they come from a completely different world and that sort of thing. And Captain Kate's story was actually interesting in the fact that I think, her folks and her family, and I think she came from Vegas as well. Like she lives in Vegas, which is nowhere near ships, it's nowhere near water. It's one of the driest places on earth, you might think. And yet she sort of wanted to be, I think the story that she used to tell is that she went on a cruise ship as a kid, and I think she saw the entertainment. And I think she saw the cruise director and thought, I want to do that job. And I think she said to her parents, I want to do that job. And they were like, listen, you could do anything. You could drive the thing. And that sort of inspired her to go off and become a captain. And I think she was, I want to get this right because otherwise I'm sure people will be upset with me. I think she was the first American megaship captain. And a megaship is basically over about 2,300 capacity. So I think she was the first American mega cruise ship captain. If I got that wrong,
what a legend.
Message me on Instagram, or you can email us as well, especially if you can message us if you met Captain Kate and you have thoughts, or if you ever met Bug the cat. She still does cat-related content before they launched the ship, and the ship was in the yard when it was being built, and they were doing all the engineering stuff and all the shippy stuff, I suppose. She was posting a lot of things about cats, so she gave them names and she would feed them and that sort of thing. Did you see any of that stuff? You're not on Instagram that much, are you?
Not me, no. I don't know a login for it.
But the thing about Captain Kate was that behind the scenes as well, and this is something that I used to talk about with guests, because they would always ask about Captain Kate, whether she was on the ship or she was on vacation. But I would say, and this is, I still believe this, is that Captain Kate ran a very, very tight ship. Captain Kate, behind the scenes, when we would do drills, I remember on a ship, we knew Captain Kate was coming, and I was like, y'all need to be ready, because Captain Kate runs a very tight ship when it comes to drills and things like this. Because drills are obviously very important, but you do drills every week, and they are just that. They are a drill. They're not a real life exercise. And you're trying to simulate that moment that if this one thing happens and you come up, the safety officer on a ship will come up with all these different scenarios of what could happen. And Captain Kate would run those drills like it's a real world, and like, no, if this happened, then this would happen. So therefore we need to do this. And she would follow it, the letter each time. And that always really impressed me, because as a cruise director, I mean, yourself, you're just the eye candy on the bridge, aren't you, really?
Right.
What you do with it. But you are making the announcements, but it's not like you're there with a fire extinguisher, is it?
No, you're absolutely right. There is a difference between when the staff captain is completely responsible for safety, security, environment, navigation. The captain very much is responsible for the staff captain and, the heads of everything. And so as a staff captain, when you see the staff captains, they're much more on top of security, much more sort of harsher in their what they're getting on with. But when the staff captain moves up to a captain, they suddenly become much more relaxed because now they've got the staff captain to run around barking at people, right, to make sure you do everything. But as you say, some captains get really involved in it. And I think it is important when you have a drill that you aren't just walking casually while you're chatting to somebody about what's going on. You should treat it properly because this is where we're going to learn things, right? And it's a serious job being out at sea.
Yeah, this is the thing that I always used to talk about in the talks, in the fact that when you're on a ship, you can't call 911 and say, hey, come and help us. I mean, yes, you can message the Coast Guard, but it's not like they can get there that quickly. A lot of times you have to figure out these things yourself. When you are at sea, you have to rely on the team around you and know. And like you said, it's interesting the way you say, yeah, the staff captain is kind of like the enforcer. The captain is the figurehead and the person that people look to, and the chief engineer runs all the systems downstairs. But yeah, the staff captain is the person that actually is the one that has to have the awkward conversations if a crew member gets in trouble, and they have to sort of be the enforcer, the fixer, the person that goes around and does a lot of that, which is great training to be a captain. And then once you get captain, like you say, you've got the extra stripe there, and or the extra half stripe, and you can then sort of not relax a little bit, because that's in a way when the big job starts, but you do then have a team that you rely on to go and do all those things that you used to have to do. That's really interesting.
What's important is actually the safety officer that's running the drill, right? They obviously with the input from the staff captain and the captain, but they're responsible for the whole drill and all the safety on the ship. And then, of course, you got the staff captain and the captain all running around. We had a captain who would add in his own things into the mix. So if he wasn't on the bridge, you knew he was up to something, and you would get phone calls from around the ship where people were saying, I've just found someone with a heart attack or something like that. And no, maybe I shouldn't say that bit. I've just found a smoke coming out of a cabin. And now you didn't know if it was a drill or not because it wasn't part of the main drill. And he was trying to test the whole program to see what would happen if people would call up at certain times from different places. And at one point, it was like trying to track him around the ship because he was getting different crew to call up, do different things, and testing the bridge system out, which is quite cool, actually.
I remember once being on a ship and they said I was allowed to be a drunk person. And obviously I was like, well, I wouldn't. I mean, I could try and act like that, but difficult to imagine that scene. But basically they were like, so in this scene, we went to the nightclub, and they were like, you're going to be in the nightclub. I think this is on a carnival ship. And they were like, okay, we're going to practice a scene, and it's going to be karaoke, and you are going to actually pretend to be a drunk person. And I think I took it a little bit too far, because I sort of grabbed the microphone, started wailing around, and then I think I ended up jumping on the bar, and they were trying to get me down. But obviously treat you as a guest, so treat you with respect. But also, obviously it was an emergency situation. You really got into the role of that. Almost like that had actually happened at some point in my life, where I'd grabbed the microphone, started yelling and screaming, and started dancing on a bar. And I was like, absolutely not. That's definitely never happened, probably.
I always used to like, when I was running a muster station, for them to send me extra crew members who would be simulated guests. So we'd have to actually work out how to handle these guests and where to put them. And so everybody got to know what their role was, rather than standing around saying, I'm this person or that person, but actually doing it is a different matter. And then you can work out how understand it, or what's going wrong with it,
Definitely a good idea to do some role playing. And on ships, all sorts of weird things happen every single day. And millions of those little things don't actually come to fruition, but lots of them do. And that the more you kind of think, how are we going to get around this situation? So you can't prepare for everything, but if you can train your brain to actually think, how do I figure out and get around this situation, then that can only be a good thing. And the better the crew are, the more trained they are, and the more experienced they are, then the better, right?
Yeah. Have you ever had any experience with security problems on a ship, or needed to have security come out and see them operate the security on the ship? They do an amazing job.
Security always brilliant. And the thing with security people is it's such a tough job, because They're they can keep no one happy because they've got to keep the crew happy, they've got to keep the guests happy, and they've got to try and deal with any situation with a guest and obviously still treat them with respect and dignity. And maybe there's beverages involved. And so
Usually.
there's a slight impairment there. So they have a thankless job, the security people do. And they work so hard because they work sort of every single day, and they're at the gangway. And then when the ship is at sea, they've got they've got to prepare for the next gangway, for the next port that we're going to be in. And they're sort of monitoring everything and looking after the crew and looking after the guests. And it's a thankless, it is really difficult. And I suppose with security, it's kind of be a little bit of not a lonely job, but maybe a little bit of a lonely job because they can only rely on themselves. Because you can't be too friendly with the rest of the crew. Like you've got to be careful that you have to, because at some point you might have to chastise that crew member. So you probably can't just be like mates with everybody.
I remember one night up in the bar, the sort of late night bar up on the top of the ship. There was some of my team were doing a karaoke, and I got a phone call to say a drunk male had reached out and tried to grab them behind the sort of pod where they were hosting from, and they were very worried about it. She was worried. Went running up, and I'd called security as well, and got up there, and they pointed out who it was. Now, he was huge, this guy, and he was at the bar and holding court at the bar. Security came out, pointed him out, and what they did is they started in a sort of a circle, but quite far out. So they didn't attract any attention. They also took a step forward and then another step forward until really he didn't notice they were even there till the last moment. And then he was surrounded, completely around him, and asked him to come with them to at least leave the lounge so they could talk about it. And that was that. He was out, kind of thing. It was very, very well done. They did it so there was no trouble. It didn't affect anything else around and didn't make a big scene. Did really, really well.
Really clever. I've never heard anything like that. That does sound cool, though.
No.
Yes, I guess they have to sort of take the situation down, but take the heat out of it, the situation, but in the most sort of like subtle, low key way ever each time.
Yeah, very clever. And obviously they have cameras all over the place, but nobody's literally watching those cameras all the time. You'd be used to go and find the footage afterwards for evidence to go and see. And you have to timestamp when the incident happened, and then somebody can go back and look through it and check what happened there and see. So they would maybe take him to one side while someone goes and checks the cameras, I guess, to see what was going on, unless he just says, yeah, I did it. I also had a call.
You can only imagine the things that they have on you on camera somewhere. There's probably some sort of dossier somewhere where all the things you've ever done on camera. I mean, if you just think about the amount of times you've stripped that are on camera somewhere, I mean, that's like...
Luckily, it doesn't come up unless someone complains or mentions it, I guess, right? Around the place. Most people, it always goes down very well when I do my routine.
Someone's got it on a hard drive somewhere, not just me.
People have got it on their phones, and they seem very always glad to show me. I don't want to see it. And obviously show my girlfriend Aldin as well. It was she's going, you've been doing it again, haven't you? And there was a time I remember. So our late night lounge again. Somebody called me. That's right. It was about 12:30 at night, and they called me. There was a band playing, and for some reason we had the crews. You get different people, different nationalities on all the time, and we had mostly full of British and Mexican. Don't know why. It's like a 50-50 mix. And
Wow.
The Mexicans come out, at night and quite lively, and the British a little bit more subdued. And so the room had split into the British on one side and the Mexicans on the other. And some Mexican children had got up onto the stage while the band were taking a break and were now playing on the instruments. And the band wouldn't come on until this had been sorted. And so the Mexicans were shouting, go on, let them play. And the British were shouting, get them off, get the band on. And so I was called in and I realized, this is something, feels like the tension is about to explode. And so I just got straight up on the stage and spoke very quietly and smiling to the kids and just said, hey, you please follow me straight off the ship, because I don't want you to have to leave the ship tomorrow. And so the Mexicans were booing and the British were cheering and tapping him in the back as I led these kids out. It was like, wow, I just want to get out. This is a no-win situation here, really. We're just going to make this situation quick. And I shouted to the band, get on stage quick before anybody else gets up there and start playing. because when the music's going, everyone's just dancing and happy, aren't they? But in between those times, people can, when you, very bad to get somebody up on stage, very bad etiquette, because that equipment is quite expensive up there, and we have a plan of what we're doing with it.
Yes, and you don't want to get in between a guitarist and his guitar, because they take those things very seriously. Like, that's their baby, right? A guitarist. So I can imagine, like, any leaving instruments on stage and a load of kids playing with it, that would not be fun for the musicians. They would be very upset by something like that.
I could finish with a story about on a gig I used to do, and I can't remember what the theme was. We always did a theme of something. It would either be Austin Powers or a 70s night, or I can't remember all the different themes. We did a Grease night. We were dressed up, and it was in a theme party restaurant. And what would happen is we'd set up, and I think we'd go on for some reason. We'd play the first one song, maybe 5 minutes, and then we would leave for 1 hour while they had their food, and then we would come back. We'd go and get ready to play the party afterwards. And so we'd set up, and we'd gone off and had a pizza somewhere. And when we came back, and it was one of these places that had lots of hen parties and stag parties, big celebrations. There'd been a food fight, and the drums were covered in cake. And the drums said, well, that's it, we're not playing then. I was having to negotiate. Maybe we could clean everything down. We could get everybody out of the room, clean it all down. Everybody would apologize, come back in and start the show again. Which is what we did in the end. Coming back to it just gone crazy while we were out. And
free cake, though.
Well, yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yo, we're talking about cheese. Every single variety. Get ready for this flavor. It's a whole ancestry. Yeah, I'm talking cheddar, sharp like my flow. Aged to perfection, you already know. Goat up smooth, creamy in the groove. Melting on a burger, you got that smooth move. Breeze so soft like a cloud on my plate. Spread it on crackers, can't make a mistake. Swiss with the hole, Swiss with the style. Every bite's a treasure, going that extra mile. From cheddar to brie, we cheese lovers, can't you see? Every kind of cheese, living that life so free. We got Gouda, feta, mozzarella, dream. In the Dairy Kingdom, we reign supreme. Haters got the bite on my Greek salad fresh. Parmesan on pasta, that's a moment to bless. Blue cheese crumbles, no one does it better. Dip it or spread it, it's a taste trendsetter. Ricotta whip so light and a lasagna so tight. Cream cheese on bagels, yeah, that's more than delight. Aged Havarti with a glass of red wine. Every kind of cheese, life's a culinary rhyme. This is the cheese break, time to groove, let it quake. Dance to the flavor, cause this beat we can't fake. From cheddar to brie, we cheese lovers, can't you see? Every kind of cheese, living that life so free. We got Gouda, feta, mozzarella, dream. In the Dairy Kingdom, we reign supreme. Yo, Burrata fresh, dripping in the heat. It's a creamy secret that's hard to beat. Monterey Jack, let it melt on my nachos. Every kind of cheese got the flavor that goes. Grilled cheese sandwiches, crispy on the outside. Pulling mozzarella strings, got me feeling that pride. Cheddar in my Mac, gotta stay on track. This cheese addiction, baby, there's no turning back.
So raise your glass, let's toast to the cheese. Cause every single bite brings us to our knees. From blue to gold, it's a taste with no seas. In this world of flavors, we find our peace. Every kind of cheese, yeah, that's the key. Keep it cheesy forever, that's the guarantee. Every kind of cheese, yeah, that's the key. Yeah, yeah,
Yo,
yeah, yeah,
Well, that was great, right? Probably the best one yet, I think. Yeah, best one yet. So good. What an absolute treat to listen to. Yep, anyway, so they asked me to mention the whole subscribe, like and comment thing. Yada yada yada. Oh, and they accept no responsibility for anything mentioned in this podcast and that and stuff. Coolio, see ya.